Joanna, it's such an honor and a pleasure to have you with us this morning. And so let's dive right into getting to know Joanna Charles. Can you tell us a little bit about where your journey started and where it has taken you to date?
Okay, thanks, Wendy, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's always nice to see CAB or to do anything that is CAB related. I always try my best to support. With regards to my journey, I would say it started in 1985 at the bank. It was NCB at the time, National Commercial Bank. It started in Soufrière, in a small town in the southwestern side of St. Lucia. I spent 5 years there. And after that, I got a promotion and came up to work in Castries in the audit department. And you know, the rest is history. At the time, I spent most of my career there. I left, went to university, came back. I did an MBA. The MBA was kind of distance learning, but you're required to go to Jamaica twice a year. I did that. And I would say the bank sponsored all of my my education. So I'm very grateful for that.
Fantastic.
I would have held many positions. I worked on every project they had. I was always asked to either lead a team or be part of a project team. I managed a branch. I was the head of HR for a while. Then I think my longest stint was as the deputy managing director. And it took many different names, different forms, but at the end of the day, the job was the same. So at the time when I left the Bank of St. Lucia 2 years ago, I came to Antigua Commercial Bank, which is another big bank within the OECS, but based in Antigua. And I'm there right now as the general manager. So I'll say that in a nutshell is really my journey, my banking career in a nutshell.
Huge congratulations, Joanna. Obviously, you've taken some significant strides in that journey. And while you perhaps have been a little bit modest, I happen to know that you sat as the chairperson rather, of the Caribbean Association of Banks throughout some of that course as well. And your legacy lives on, right? So there are a lot of initiatives that would have started with you and continue to this day. So I know there's a little bit more along that journey, but perhaps they'll come up as we continue to discuss this morning.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what you would say are some of your guiding principles or success traits. What are the things that are innate to you or perhaps cultivated during the course of your journey that have helped you become the person that you are today?
I would attribute a lot of that to just being focused, knowing what you want, but also knowing that along the way, things may not evolve as planned. The journey might take a different course. Along the way, life could happen, and that could totally throw you out of course. But I think also being present and being mindful of that you cannot hold on to any hard and fast rule about anything. So I'd say staying focused, but knowing when it's time to change course. I would say determination. And I think practicing consistency, because consistency is key to a lot of things. It's like, knowing that you have to wake up every morning to exercise, or you cannot say I'm doing it today and not doing it next week. And it's about being consistent to see the results that you want to see. And I think I've maintained that throughout my life. Or rather, I've tried to, as much as I possibly could.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the things you said that resonates for me is practicing consistency, because it's not something, like you rightly said, that comes naturally. And so there's a thought process and a purposeful determination to ensure that you stay the course. So I'm going to jump to a question that I had actually hoped to pose later, but I think it's really relevant for now. In terms of your mindset and your attitude towards change and being able to adapt quickly, how do you think you have managed through the entire crisis that the world is looking at now, and that is COVID? And what, if anything, did it teach you about yourself in the process?
If we go back to my time at CAB as chairman of CAB, I'll use that as a prime example. We had a similar crisis in the banking industry, and that's the whole de-risking phenomena.
Right.
I think that was the tipping point for CAB. Before, a lot of people were saying, I'm not seeing the value. Why should I remain in CAB? Why should I remain a member? But I think at the time, we were ready because we had the right board. We had just prepared a strategic plan. But I think what made it work for us was that we had a response to it. And in responding to that crisis, I think we took it to a different level where we created awareness at the same time globally. CAB became known globally, but we also made CAB an organization that people wanted to be a part of, because finally they started to understand, yes, finally we are getting value from CAB representing us. We're getting value from the annual fee that we pay. CAB is really representing us finally. So, but I think the important thing was being prepared and being flexible and understanding the whole reason behind the de-risking. But I think the important thing was having a very clear strategy for dealing with the situation and getting a favorable outcome for our members.
Right.
I mean, I spent a lot of time just traveling and even met with senators and Congress people in the United States, going to Europe, just to try to get some answers for us. And I think it has all worked out now. The whole de-risking phenomena is less of an issue now for most of our members. If I were to liken that to COVID, I think as a leader, it's important to be flexible. It's to understand that change is, I don't want to sound cliche, but change is the only constant in life. But I think, and also it's important to try to adapt to that change. And if you can do that and not remain fixed in how you manage things on a daily basis, I think, it really would be the guiding principle for a lot of things that we have to do today, because change is constantly taking place.
Right.
So I'd say flexibility, being able to adapt to our environment. For example, we were in the process of replacing all of our desktops. And when COVID happened, we were like, no, why don't we get a laptop? So we were one of the few banks that were able to set up shop in such a way that our people could work from home, and they were able to do so from the day the lockdown started.
Fantastic.
And also able for your people to see you as, as a strong leader, as somebody who understands what's going on, but it can provide them with direction that they trust. And I would say that we managed COVID quite successfully based on feedback we've gotten from our customers, shareholders, stakeholders.
Right. And you're quite correct. I think being able to take a bird's eye view sometimes is what really helps us in staying the course of success. Because we know that the distractions will come, the disruptors are a must. And in more instances than not, we grow as a result of them. We learn new things about, how we have led through, and there are good things that we take away from it. So in a lot of regards, I think COVID, from some of the other interviews that we've conducted and some of the interviews that are to come, we would hear commonality with leaders, and that being one of the things I've always liked about you is there's a calm, level-headed approach to the way that you do business. And people would probably see this in the interview today as well, even speaking with you now. That oftentimes we do have to kind of take a step back, take a breath before we jump into things for the best outcomes. And that is in itself part of the adapting to and preparing for the change. So thank you for sharing that with us, Joanna. In terms of, let me ask you a bit of a heavy question right now. In terms of your experience in the industry, do you believe that your experience would be different from that of your male counterparts? And if the answer to that is yes, are there any specific examples that come to mind that you would want to share with us?
Wendy, I get asked that question a lot. And I would really say no, to be quite honest.
Okay.
I don't know that it's different. I think at the end of the day, we all required to perform. We all have goals that we have to meet. I don't know that it's entirely different. I cannot honestly say that my experience as a female in terms of the, climbing the ladder or whatever, I cannot say that it's different to that of a male. People may use that, oh, because I'm a woman, that kind of thing. Sometimes you tend to think that.
Right.
I think now we can command probably almost the same pay as, although I still think they get a little more. Because I think women are socialized not to ask for money. You're not kind of where you brought them to just accept what they offer. But I must say that is changing.
Right.
Women are now asking for what they think that they're worth and the value that they bring to any organization. However, do I think what I've noticed is that men get away with doing less. No offense to my male counterparts, but I think it's more because we women, we bring that whole maternal thing onto the job.
Right.
We want to be the nurse, we want to be the doctor, we want to be everything to everybody.
Yes, the nurturers come through.
That the nurturer, all of that.
Yes.
And I think we tend to stretch ourselves too thin. And we call it multitasking. But at the end of the day, it leaves us drained and tired and not having time to, balance ourselves, our families and so on. So I think it's time that women start. One of the things I've learned though, is to emulate men in that regard, in that men have a way of getting things done by doing less. They're great at delegating, they're great at creating relationships, but we always feel that we need to do more. So one of the things I've learned is you can achieve a lot more by doing less.
Okay.
So I think there are lessons to learn from just being around men and working with them.
Okay, so you raise a really, really very good point, and I think this is a sticky point for so many of our peers, right? And I would go a step further to say not only in the financial services sector, but more broadly. And you're right, women tend to always think that there's a fire, I have the hose, I'm the only one who can put it out, and I have to do it now. Me personally, right? But you speak about delegating authority, delegating workloads, and so on. Help me to understand and help our listeners and viewers to understand, how do you get to that level of comfort with your team to be able to effectively delegate responsibility and know that it will be done? What are some of your factors to success in that regard?
I think the first step, Wendy, is building your team. And by doing that, you make sure you have the right people in the right jobs. Make sure that they train properly, make sure that they understand the job that they've been asked to do, and also to empower them though. And how do you empower them? I think it's important to trust that they will get done what they're required to do. And I think that way you build leaders. So when they come to me and I empower them to be creative, I say, you know what? It's your area, you're the expert. What do you think? Just like asking those 4 simple, what do you think? So that's how, in here, for example, which is my more current role, I found that I've seen the transformation take place just by engaging people more and saying, what do you think? You're the expert. I have to come to you for advice. At the end of the day, I may have to make a decision based on all of the information that I have, but I need your expertise to guide that decision. And because of that, I've seen people take greater ownership of the areas. And so right now, I'm less involved. In the first year, I was very involved, training people, developing them, coaching them, guiding them. And I think that I've seen change. I've seen a lot of change, and they come back and they say to me, thank you for your guidance. Thank you. So now I can go on vacation without worrying about, is everything going to be okay? And I let them do what they have to do. I never ever feel that I should be the one doing what they have to do.
Fantastic.
And that's what, to me, in my mind, that's what delegation is about. Preparing your team first choosing the right team and preparing them, and then letting go. It's like your children. It's as simple as that.
Fantastic. No, you know, it sounds really simple on paper, but you're speaking, and I can tell, actually circled here, your HR background came through there.
Yes.
And you know, one of the things that I think this is, you know, one of those pearls of wisdom out of Joanna Charles herself, is that you invest today for the benefits and growth of your team tomorrow. So you put in the legwork at the beginning, up front, you do all of the hours that you need to do. But the thought should always be that at some point, the children, your employees, your incumbents should at some point be able to take a stand and really reflect the training that you put into them. And that is the essence of delegation. You don't just assume that because someone has a title that they will, in the way you want. Every leadership is different and every leadership style is different, granted. But it really is about taking ownership of the team, understanding their strengths, their weaknesses, working on building everyone's capacity. And then you're able to take a more strategic look at divestment of your own prime responsibilities, which is the growth of the organization.
Correct. Very well said.
Thank you so much for that. That is fantastic. So to all of our listeners out there, delegation is possible. You put the work in at the beginning and reap the benefits at the end, not only from the organization, but also from the development of your team. And that's what leadership really is about. So already, Joanna, I think we have quite a few things that you would be very proud of, but let me let you speak to it yourself. Tell us about your accomplishments or the things that really, you know, give you a bit of a boost, a personal boost that, yes, I did this during your career. And conversely, because we know that it's not always going to be a road of flowers, tell us about something that is or was particularly challenging for you throughout your career. And what lessons did you learn in the process?
Yeah, I'd say we did a whole sales transformation at Bank of St. Lucia in my previous role, and I think it was a proud time for me in that I was the project leader on the bank side, and what we did was separate sales from operations. To be able to focus more on customers. So if you take away the back office from your front line, then you're able to sell more. So it was a whole transformative process for us. I think where it may have gone wrong in the end is that probably in maybe scoping the entire project, we probably didn't take the whole communication and buy-in into consideration as much as we should. So you find at some point there was a lot of pushback. The levels of acceptance were not as we thought it should be. But I think the key thing was ensuring that there was enough buy-in. And that whole change management process, this is where I think we failed. I would say failed, but probably didn't take into consideration as much as we should have. And that lesson for me here at ACB is that when I came and we wanted to put in a new strategic plan, one of the mistakes I knew that I must not happen is that we need to ensure that we go through the entire change process. And it's not only people talk about change, but it's only, after you've gone through the whole exercise, you understand how critical it is to ensure that people understand the change, that they buy into the change, that they can manage the change, and maybe there might come a point where you may have people who are resistant to the change. How do you deal with that level of resistance? So if you ask me, one of the lessons I would say that not taking that aspect of the entire transformative process into consideration, which I think would have impacted it. And we've seen a difference in that when it took a whole year to even start the implementation of the plan, because we wanted to make sure that people understood it, that they bought into it, that they understand how it affected what they did. So if you're a teller, how does balancing your cash on a day-to-day basis affect the overall financial goal in your strategic plan? Things like that. So We did a whole change management workshop. We did a lot of town hall meetings, so ensuring that there's adequate buy-in. And I mean, I was so pleased yesterday when the staff were congratulating each other on 65 years, happy anniversary. And one of them used the mission and the vision to push her message through.
Wow.
I mean, I felt so proud.
All right.
And yes, I'd say, I think it's important in anything you do to ensure that there's buy-in. There will be some people who will resist it. But I think the important thing is to know how to manage that resistance. Mm-hmm. And there are many options as to how you can do so.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so that's my greatest lesson, I would think.
Absolutely. And I suppose your greatest success coming out of what could have been a less seamless process. So taking the experience from one institution, or taking one experience which perhaps could have been handled differently, and that's self-awareness, right? They're speaking, and overlaying that experience to ensure that the next encounter was a success is in itself, tantamount to what leadership is about. And not just leadership, but generally speaking, in every sphere of our lives. I think that's what we often talk about when we say, let's not make the same mistake twice. That every opportunity that you have, or I don't like to say challenge, and I don't like to say obstacle. So every opportunity that you have, you should be able to walk away and say that I learned something from this, and I'm not going to make the same, misstep twice. So thank you for sharing that. And I think there's a lot of learning to be had in that example that was given. So tell us a little bit about what advice would you give to young ladies who are entering what is still perhaps considered by and large a male-dominated field? And maybe I should start by asking, do you even consider this still to be a male-dominant field?
Yeah, Wendy, I was thinking about that question earlier, and I would say no. I mean, when you look at the statistics out there, in Antigua alone, there are 6 banks here. 5 of the CEOs are female.
Wow. Okay.
Jamaica has quite a number of female CEOs as well. I mean, everywhere you look, I think the industry is becoming very dominated by women, if you ask me. If you look at the workforce in banks, it's predominantly female employees. So I don't know that it's a question of
male dominance in the industry.
Yeah, dominance, right. Male dominance. If you look at my board is predominantly female.
Lovely.
So I think it's the things have changed along the way. I think there's been a lot of things have evolved. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's no longer a male thing or female thing. I think it's just about who can do the job, and who can do so effectively. Mm-hmm. So if I were to give advice to any young females entering a profession, I'll say the same thing that I say to the males. Just have a goal for yourself. Just be determined. Be focused, but not so focused that you miss out on things that are happening around you, things that are necessary to help you grow and develop into a wholesome individual. Don't be too focused on the job. There are people tell you, I will get that job done by any means necessary. You should not even think of that. Mm-hmm. But I think what I'll say to them is enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride. Be present in whatever you do. I think I think you need to have fun doing it as well. But see, I remember back in the old days, we used to have such a good time. You leave work at 4:00, 4:15. You go and hang out somewhere, or you go on a line, come back home 10, 11 o'clock in the night. Yeah. These days are long gone, and I'm saying we're too serious, lighten up a bit. That's what I say to them. But at the end of the day, I think enjoy what you do, have fun doing it, mm-hmm. But at the same time, remember that you expected to perform.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talking about having fun, and we know that Joanna loves to have a good time. We've seen you do that, right?
Yes.
Tell us, Joanna, the concept of work-life balance is one that we've heard about, we've read about, we keep seeing it popping up every now and again, and certainly in this time of COVID, perhaps even more relevant, if ever, than before. How do you maintain work-life balance?
The thing is, I've never been one of those people who work still 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the night. I feel there's a time that you need to cut,
Mm-hmm.
there's a time that you need to develop that other side of you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about work. Some people say they live to work. To me, I think it should be the other way around. You should work to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I work to live. So in that, I can afford the things that I want to do with my life other than work.
Right.
So there's a time that I cut off. And when I cut off, that's it for me for the day. It doesn't mean that my mind stops working. It's just that my time in the office, focus on the job, ends. It can end at 5, it can end at 6. And after that, sometimes I maybe do nothing. After that, it's probably family time, maybe just binging on Netflix or Amazon Prime or shopping.
Right.
Just finding time to be you. That kind of way. I've since moved from exercising in the afternoon to the morning. So by doing that, and there's a friend of mine who encouraged me, and he said, why don't you think of working out in the morning? Because once you've done it, you've gotten it done for the day. So if you miss it on an afternoon, you don't feel so guilty.
Right.
That I've missed 3 days. Like if things come up, you say like, oh God, I missed my exercise today. So that was a big transformation for me.
Right.
Because all my life I exercised in the afternoon, and then I had to move to the morning. So I guess it's just adapting yourself to your environment, your circumstances. In St. Lucia, if you ask me what I did after work on my way home, I stopped in the gym, or I met a friend, we hang out, or stop at a friend's home or somebody's home, or the kind of thing. Hey, I do have family here, so it's from work home, the occasional social thing. But I think I had to learn to enjoy my time with myself.
Right.
So I started cooking more. I download the New York Times cooking app.
Oh.
I've been making some amazing dishes from there. I've been surprising myself. Did I make that? Did I cook that? Kind of thing. So it's just learning a lot of things about myself, because I think every circumstance is different, and I think we should try to find our space. Within that environment that we live in at whatever point in our lives.
Right.
And I think that's what I've had to do. And the whole thing of adaptability is very current, because the same way you have to adapt yourself to your circumstances, you also have to adapt your organization to the environment. And to me, that is in itself is balance.
Fantastic. You shared a couple of things that I just want to touch on a little bit. One of them is being able to unplug or disconnect. You disconnect your laptop because it shouldn't stay on the charger all the time, or you disconnect your phone because it shouldn't stay on the charger all of the time. But oftentimes we don't disconnect. Tell us a little bit about your own thoughts about disconnecting. Tell us a little bit more about that in terms of why. Why is it significant for you to be able to disconnect?
I have a lot of mentors, people that I talk to, people that I learn things from, people, that we engage each other and so on. And one of them said to me that if somebody sends you an email and say you haven't responded, maybe you didn't get the time to respond, because I get like hundreds of emails and everything just gets pushed down. He said, if that email is very important, the person will resend the email. So that is one strategy that I use. I try to go through all my emails on a daily basis, but that is one strategy. The other one I would think is when I go home on evenings, yes, I will look at my phone occasionally, but mostly in the group chat. We have a group chat for the managers. And if I see a lot of activity going on there, I would assume that something's happening. So I'll check and decide whether to respond or not. So I think it's important to disconnect because you cannot remain in the same mode throughout the day. Your body needs it. You need that downtime. You need that point where your mind is free.
Right.
And also free, your mind needs to be free, because what I realized though, I took a week's vacation. I went to St. Lucia. When I came back, to my surprise, I went into quarantine. Now, quarantine during COVID, during the early days of COVID, is different to quarantine in the middle of COVID. Because when COVID started, everybody was in quarantine. So it was fun and, but when you're in quarantine on your own, that's a totally different thing. But being in quarantine, what I found though was that I was a lot more productive. I got a lot more things done in the day. But what I also realized is I was working longer hours because the computer is right there and you work on something. Whereas at work, you have distractions. People come to your office, they come. Right. The ladies always come. We compare outfits. So you look lovely today. I like your shoes. So we go through that thing every day. I like your makeup. That thing that women do. But there are other distractions. Customers call you. You have meetings, this, that, and the other. But in being in quarantine, I realized that I was not disconnecting as I should. However, I was a lot more productive in terms of accomplishing my tasks for the day.
Right.
So when I realized that for the first week, I said, no. I need to behave as though I'm still at work. I'd wake up in the morning, do my exercise, I'd cook if I needed to for the day, and then I'd make sure that I can settle at my desk as though I were on the job.
Right.
But with because there are fewer distractions, I was able to put in a few extra, accomplish more within the same 8 hours of the day. Yeah. And then I started to disconnect. And disconnect could be just, at 5 o'clock, you say, you know what, I'm not checking that computer.
Right.
You cannot do anything, you cannot go outside. So you either call somebody calls you, or just sip a glass of wine, or, just keep it light and so on. But disconnect. But the point I was making of that whole story about quarantine was that because I was in another environment for 2 weeks, I gained a lot of clarity. Because when you're at work and you're busy, you don't have the time. So I had time to think and plan, think of things differently, think of changes we need to make, think of, different people, the managers, the organization, what we want to do, what we want to go. So I was able to get that clarity just by being disconnected from the normal work environment. So when I came back to work on Monday, I felt refreshed. Also to add that, I had some new work attire that I wanted to wear. So I had new bag, new outfit, just the glasses I didn't have time to change. And I felt good. I had this lightness about me that I hadn't felt for the entire 9 months or so since COVID started. So that was just to say that it's important to disconnect. And you can do it in many ways. You can find clarity, maybe just by going and play golf on an afternoon, just by going and exercise or doing yoga or whatever makes you happy,
Yes, yeah. Joanna, that was so fully loaded with everything I really, really wanted to come out of that question. So that was really spot on. And, while you answered in the context of COVID and quarantine, I think the wider answer to that question really is not only for the younger ladies who are in industry or the younger ladies who are thinking of making banking a career, but more broadly speaking, we all have challenges. We all have multiple aspects of our lives happening at the same time. But for us to be effective, efficient, and successful, we must be in a place where you said it, there's a feel-good factor, and we do something that makes us happy, for clarity, for productivity. And oftentimes what you find is when you're in that feel-good place, your output is so significant with so little stress because you're at peace, you're less stressed, and so you're able to do a lot more. But more importantly, you're able to give a lot more. And that's what your team needs, right? So thank you so much for sharing that or those experiences, Joanna, because I think there's a lot more to that answer that we can really take from than just exactly what you answered. So here's another fun question for you. I'm looking forward to the answer to this one. Where are you most likely to be found now on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. now that you have freedom from quarantine?
Actually, there's a beach just down the road from me. It takes you like 2 minutes to get to it.
Right.
Sometimes I go walking on a Saturday. If not, I wake up late, I drink coffee, I laze around, I do my normal browsing, or maybe just go to the beach down the road for about an hour and come back.
Right, right.
And I'd like to do that between 9 and 10, 9 and 11 when the sun is not very hot.
Right, okay.
And just to chill.
Okay.
On a Saturday, I do no kind of like housework on a Saturday. I don't think a Saturday was not made for that. Saturday was made for everything else other than house chores.
Very good. Very
According
good.
to Joanna, that's my philosophy.
So to all of you people listening out there, Saturday is officially your day off. Everything
Your day off, everything. Yes, time to just do anything what you want to do.
Fantastic. And I agree with that, actually. I think there must be a day when you can lay in bed late and not be worried that the alarm is going to go off, because the rest of the week you're always on the go, right?
Yes,
so that's
exactly.
Your disconnect day. Absolutely. I vote for that. I vote for that. So you started to go down this path a little earlier, and I'm kind of happy that you didn't go all the way, because I would like to spend a little bit of time here. Can you tell us who inspires you, Joanna, and why?
So many people, it's difficult to pinpoint and say one person. I'm inspired by people who had to defy odds, to get to where they are today. I'm inspired by people who, despite many rejections or failures, didn't allow that to stop them from achieving their life goals. I'm inspired by people, despite of their handicap, physical handicap, they're still able to go on and achieve greatness. When I look back at my mother, who was my first example of entrepreneurship, being a mother, but also she was a great event planner, and she didn't even know that. I mean, we had I'm from Chazelle, in the countryside in St. Lucia, and we had this dance hall, and my mother was always organizing dances, different themes, different outfits, and so on, and they were always very successful. So I say maybe I would have gotten some of that from her. She always liked to, the house is always changing every month, the furniture, the curtains. So I like interior decorating. So I think I may have taken that from her as well. But there are other people. There are people who, they call them people's, you're a people's person, where you can just go into a room and light up the room.
Yes.
There are people, these kind of people inspire me, in that I wish I could be more like them.
Right.
But I think mostly, they're great leaders all over the place. It's just a lot of people. There are customers who, like female customers, who have done extremely well. They now probably own hotel chains, and they, everything that they've achieved. I think it's a multiplicity of things. I can't pinpoint one thing about anybody that I would say defines the whole concept of who inspires you.
Right.
It's just so many people inspire me up to now.
Okay, so you are.
If I may say one, and I'd say so because I think, although he's dead now, I think he's taken me through that whole spiritual journey, which happened probably in the last 3 years. And it's, I'd say Dr. Wayne Dyer, just by following him and listening to his tapes, his messages, reading his books. I think it has totally changed me into becoming a better person. And he encourages you to be your higher self. Mm-hmm. I would like to think that I am my higher self at this point in time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that you're the sum of experiences. And I think for a lot of us, we probably would be very similarly inclined to say that there are a number of persons whom we've encountered in our day-to-day living, but they've left something with us, perhaps something undefined, but within yourself, within your soul, when you speak about, something that has touched you in an indescribable way, there are people who will come to mind. So thank you for sharing that. Our interview is quickly coming to a close. I can't believe it's almost been an hour that we've been speaking.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Time has flown.
There are a couple of other questions that we want to get through with you, Joanna.
Yeah.
And we're going back to, broadly the audience and sharing your wealth of experience. So when faced with challenges, what go-to strategy or approach do you employ to ensure that you remain on the success path and that you're not derailed by what's happening around you? Share that with us, although I think you've done that a lot, but more pointedly.
Wendy, one of the things you said earlier in our interview is that, Joanna, you have this calm disposition. I didn't know it until people started to tell me all the time. But when I really believed it was when my doctor told me. And I'm like, okay. She said, all of you just seem to have this whole calm thing about you, meaning my sisters. I think that is what happens, and it happens automatically. It's not something that I plan or something I think of. When I'm faced with adversity or anything, for some reason, this whole sense of calmness, I just feel overcome by it. And I have to do so, like retreat, before I make any decisions or before I take any action.
Right.
And I would think probably that is what has helped me a lot throughout my career, my life, and not rush into action. Because I think it's important to just assess a situation. There are times you may not have time to, but I think it's just a natural kind of coping mechanism that I don't think about it. I don't do it. Think about doing it. It just happens. Right. So I would say that is my coping type of mechanism when I'm faced with adversity.
Fantastic. The fantastic thing about doing this series is you begin to recognize certain commonalities and certain trends of leaders. And this is certainly one of them. As we listen to this series, you would recognize that a lot of our lady leaders have actually said something along the lines of, and every time I hear it, I have to liken it to your training one-on-one with life-saving skills. So first aid training. The one thing that you're always taught is you assess every situation before jumping into it. Because sometimes what you think is the answer is perhaps like throwing oil on a fire, fuel on a fire, because you're going to exacerbate it. And I think that is certainly one strategy that everyone, if it's not already part of you, it's something that you should work towards nurturing and cultivating, that before you jump in and try to fix it, that you really need to step back and understand it so that your offering in terms of a solution will be the best given the information that you have at hand. And certainly I think once it is recognized that you've used all of the information and not rushed to judgment, in as much as there are times when you have to make quick decisions, will always hold you in good stead. So our final question for you, Joanna, is your last nugget of wisdom for lady leaders to come. What is your advice to the next generation?
I would say just be true to yourself. Be you. Don't try to be anybody or anything you're not. I think people tend to respond to you better when your natural self. And just stay focused, just stay present. There's this book that I read called Presence by Amy Cuddy, I think. And I'll recommend that every young person reads that book. I think I read it too late in my life, but they say it's never too late to learn anything. And I think that book just kind of changed the way that I look at things, the way that I handle them. And there's this very there's a saying by Dr. Wendy again that I love. He says that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I started to think about that, and I thought, that is just so appropriate, because too many times we have this our own perception of things, or how things should be, or how they should work, without seeing, without changing how we look at the things. And then only when we change how we look at them, we see how it really should be. And it's like an eye opener. It's like an aha moment. Oh yes, why didn't I look at it that way so long ago? So I mean, there are a lot of things that people have been sharing, a lot of messages, a lot of stories on Instagram or WhatsApp or Facebook. That I'm sure a lot of people read them, but I think this would be my few. Just be yourself, be true to yourself, and things might take time for them to happen, but they do happen. Because I'm a strong believer that whatever is there for you, nothing can take it away from you. And that is what I'd probably leave the interview with. Yeah.
Very nice, very nicely said, and very profound as well. I think the whole question of being authentic is one that we should all aspire to being. There's a reason why we're here, and there's no other like each and every one of us. So really own who you are, believe in who you are. Joanna said, at the end of the day, things are not always going to come, perhaps when you would want them to come, but if they are meant for you, they will come.
Yes.
I think the one way that you can command that is working towards what it is that you want the outcome to be. Don't just expect it to fall in your lap. And the fact that you're a lady doesn't mean that you get a free pass to anything.
Not at all.
Exactly. If you want it, you work for it, while being authentically you. Because at the end of the day, you can only wear a cover, a cloak, hide behind somebody that you're not for so long. The authentic you will come out at some point. So just nurture it from the get-go. Joanna, thank you so much. This interview was nothing short of what I expected it to be, and I'm sure that our viewers would have learned and gained and grown so much from listening and interfacing with you today. There is one question that I'm going to ask just to put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah.
You game?
Yeah, of course, always.
All right, here I go. So part of the Lady Leadership series, or what we're hoping to accomplish, is the next step, actually. This is very exciting in and of itself, but the next step for me is even more exciting, where we are working towards establishing our mentorship program. And I'm almost positive, I'm 150% positive actually, that people will be knocking at our doors to say, how do I get in touch with Joanna Charles? And and based on all that she said today, I would love an opportunity to work with her so that I can refine who I am and my brand. So Joanna, will you agree on camera to being one of our mentors when we launch this program in 2021?
Sure.
Great. So I know that there will be, your time is going to be now called on by CAB again. I have no doubt that we will continue to benefit from your service. I really want to thank you, Joanna. Today has been fantastic. I really appreciated the time that we spent. But I also know that you have a real job to get back to. So again, I want to say thank you, continued success to you and your team. And we will continue with our dialogue and ongoingly. So I know that you'll be reaching out to Joanna. Feel free to do so through the CAB if you don't know how to get in touch with her directly. And we look forward to taking you through the rest of our series in Lady Leadership 101. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. And thank you to CAB and for making this happen. And it was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
And I wish you all success. I wish you all, success in this, this series and the program. And I'm sure it will achieve what you want it to achieve. I can feel it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right.
We are truly, truly excited. So we're looking forward to continue dialogue.
Yes.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. All the best. Bye-bye.